Next on BYUSN, in anticipation of the first Big 12 schedule for the Cougars, what does the ideal one look like?
Plus, a school record for BYU hoops shooting the three last night. But is it sustainable?
Well, BYU plays Westminster every night. BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Wednesday, November 30th. I am Jarom Jordan alongside a guy who stands next to giants on the reg, Jason Shepard.
Everybody looks like giants standing next to me, don't they?
They might be giants. Last night in the postgame, you're talking to Noah Waterman, and we got if you listen closely, you can hear the Shire theme.
Okay.
From Fellowship of the Ring.
All right.
Bilbo out here with Gandalf.
Well, look, as an average height person, someone who's 6'11", and look,
What's the average height?
Whatever I am. 5'9".
I agree. You're a very average person.
Stop it. No, but what made it worse was I had interviewed Mark Pope, and then the very next person was Noah Waterman. I'm like, really? We're just going to keep putting the tallest people next to me?
Did you see later that Cosmo was jumping behind Mark Pope to try and be seen?
Yeah, I saw that out of the corner of my eye. I saw somebody. I didn't realize it was Cosmo until we were done, and I turned around.
I was so distracted in that moment. I was like, what is he saying? I'm just staring at Cosmo jumping around.
Yeah, all right.
But it's all good. Everyone looks small compared to those guys.
You know what is also good? Today's show. And on today's show, Hinckley Ropati stops by, talk about his season, looking ahead to the bowl game and the offseason. Also, should BYU Hoops move their home court north? They do quite well at Vivint Arena, and the latest Deep Blue focuses on Jernaro Gilford.
And here are today's headlines. Men's Hoops makes a school record 19 three-pointers. I think Shep even got 2 in last night in a 100-70 win against Westminster in Vivint Arena in Salt Lake, as seen on BYU TV and as heard on BYU Radio. Gideon George and Jackson Robinson led the way with 15 apiece. Jackson, what'd you think, man?
Sets it out to Dallin Hall. Back to Tanner for three-pointer number 19. And there it is. It's a new BYU program record for three-pointers in a single game. 19 threes.
Jackson thinks Tanner Toolson making the three was good. The Cougars prepare for their first meeting ever with South Dakota Saturday. Pregame on BYU TV and BYU Radio, 2:30 Eastern.
After being released by New York back in August, Kai Nakua back with the Jets, signed to their practice squad. Congratulations to him.
Very nice. 2 weeks ago, he was on the sideline watching Puka on Senior Day. So there you go. 7 swimmers from the men and women's teams will compete in the U.S. Open Swimming Championships in Greensboro, North Carolina today through Saturday.
Track and Field released their upcoming indoor schedule. They will open competition in Boston this Saturday, December 3rd at the Sharon Collier Danville season opener.
Throughout the records in that competition. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending. Sports are awesome. What's trending?
Storming that field's going to cost you $250,000.
Is it that expensive in the Big 12?
I think it's $250,000.
In the SEC, I think it's $100. So
that was $250,000 in the Big 12.
Well, no wonder there's $50 million in TV money. What's Trending is presented by Bodyguards, protection for a life worth living. Learn more at bodyguards.com. The Big 12 football schedule for next year could come out soon, perhaps as soon as tomorrow, according to Dave McCann, referencing a conversation with BYU Athletic Director Tom Homo 2 weeks ago. So, Jason, what's your ideal Big 12 schedule for next season? We're not going like what we think it'll be. We're going with if we made it, what would it look like?
I will say there is a little bit of common sense in mind, but it certainly is still ideal.
Really?
No. Okay. And here's the thing that I loved about this. You and I did not talk about this, so we did not know. And I
don't know what you've done.
So I think it actually.
Even though it's in there, I have not looked at it.
It actually turns out we have the exact same first two.
Okay. Talk to me.
So Texas right out of the gate.
Yeah.
If you're going to begin a new era in the Big 12, you want Texas, and I promise you the Big 12 wants to send Texas to Provo for an 8:15 kick.
Or on the road at West Virginia.
They want Texas and Oklahoma going on the road, the most uncomfortable situation. So I'm taking Texas. Are we going the entire schedule, or are we going to just go back and forth?
You do yours. Then
okay, all right. Yeah. So we'll start with Texas. Then I'm going to say you have Kansas coming into Provo for week 2. So your first 2 games in the Big 12 you have at home. Then I think you're probably going to go with 2 of the new teams for this season. So you go at Houston, then you get your bye. The reason I put the bye there was because that would be after 6 weeks. That's right smack dab in the middle. That's where I'd love to have the bye week. That way you've gone through half the season, get a bye week, and then prepare for the stretch run. After the bye, and the reason you have the bye is because you're going to TCU the next week.
Big 12 champs, Provo.
Then West Virginia has to travel cross-country to come to Provo.
Yep.
Then you get your one long trip. You go to Orlando for Central Florida. You go to at Iowa State because it seems like that's who BYU is being paired with in a lot of these things. We've seen this maybe in basketball, so maybe it will transfer into football as well. But you get on the road there, and then you finish the last 2 weeks at home with Oklahoma State, Texas Tech.
Who am I missing? No Cincy, Oklahoma, Baylor, one more.
Yeah, and I didn't do Baylor.
State.
Yeah, I didn't do Baylor because BYU's already faced Baylor twice, so I don't know if they would give Baylor a 3rd time in a row. So I think maybe that's one of the teams that BYU won't face this year that you'll get next year.
Gotcha. So no Cincy, Oklahoma, Baylor, Kansas State.
Correct.
Okay. Here's what I go with. As you mentioned, Texas, first game, get the big brand in Provo. That'd be awesome. Taysom Hill, if he has a bye week with the Saints, he runs out the alumni flag for sure.
Nice.
Kansas, week 2, formerly the cupcake, the doormat of the league. Now a respectable team that went 6-6 in the regular season. I go at Houston in week 3. I want Oklahoma and Provo as well. Again, I don't think this is what the league's going to do, but I would love Texas and Oklahoma and Provo.
Our first 3 games are the same. Exact same.
There you go. Okay, Oklahoma, I want the Sooners. BYU's had success against Oklahoma, 09, 94. At TCU, what's up? Old WAC and Mountain West foe in week 5, just second road game. Bye after that game because, yes, you've played 8 in a row, but I just want to be strong down the last stretch, likely in November. Bye week in late October. November, you go Oklahoma State. You go at Baylor. I'd like to continue with Baylor. I love that matchup. I think it's a good one. If there's any sort of natural rivalry, it's either TCU or Baylor already, I think. Although there hasn't been vitriol to create a rivalry. I just think it's a good quality competitive game. Texas Tech at home to end, and then at UCF. I choose at UCF because I want a good weather game in November. Just ensure I don't want to play in Provo too much in November, so I got 2 home games. Don't want one of the snow games, but at UCF would be ideal. So,
and you want to see Disney World decorated with Christmas decorations.
Well, that'd be Spencer, but yes. No games versus West Virginia, Cincy, Iowa State, Kansas State is what I go with in year 1, although I feel you on the Iowa State pairing that we're hearing. 5 home, 4 road, 7 home games.
Yeah.
I want BYU in this business of 7 or 8 a year. Get ready for increased ticket prices, but you know what's awesome? Winning. Winning's the best, okay? There are sacrifices to be made. Christian Pulisic took one below the belt for America. What are you doing for BYU, okay? Never more than 2 games away in a row, and then you get Texas, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, all in Provo in year 1 with no guarantee of what year 2 looks like. And again, I'm not super concerned about who's on the traditional rivalry week. If BYU gets a rival, great. Like Utah hasn't. They have Colorado in that last week. It's whatever. But I'm excited. Honestly, unless BYU's playing 3 road games in a row or doesn't get Texas and Oklahoma at all or something like that, or they have to go to West Virginia at Cincy at UCF, unless they have something sort of extreme in one of those regards, I'm going to like this schedule almost no matter what.
Yes.
And the first thing I'm going to look at, Shep, is how many home games BYU has. Is it a 5 or a 4? Because that dictates, is it 6 or 7 home games? The more home games, the better. The goal for BYU next year is at least 2-1 non-con, at least 4-5 in conference, at least 6-6 and make a bowl. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. We don't know who the main running back's going to be. Perhaps it is Miles Davis and Hinckley Ropati, but I think BYU goes to the transfer portal to add to that group. We've seen that this year. They've needed 4 dudes to get to 7 wins. I'm excited, and I'm more excited about that than who the bowl opponent is.
Yeah,
that is not even close to the excitement of this first schedule.
See, now here's I'm going under the assumption, and maybe I'm not sure why I am. I'm going under the assumption that the 4 new schools probably aren't going to get both Texas and Oklahoma in the same year. I think what they're probably going to do is save Texas and Oklahoma to be able to play the teams that were in the Big 12 that kind of want their pound of flesh, you know what I mean? Like they want to make sure that they get both of them this year and next year. I think that eliminates the fact that the 4 new schools, I think you're getting one year and the other one the other year. That's kind of why I went with Texas in this, and you're getting Oklahoma next year. I don't know. I think they want the teams that have been around Texas and Oklahoma to have more cracks at playing them before they leave than giving both of them to one of the new schools early.
How P&V, petty and vindictive, will they be? Because if they're super petty and vindictive, they will send them to the 4 on the road. 4 of those 5 would be those new games. So we'll see what happens there. We will see what happens there. Okay, so we have learned and asked the league about when we might see the schedule. Just wondering. We were told this that it may be mid-December. So the conversation of perhaps December 1st is based on Dave McCann talking to Tom Hummel saying, hey, we're going to be ready by December 1st for this. But we've been told this just in that it may be by mid-December. So we'll see. It
so
sounds
within
like
the next couple of weeks.
2 weeks, perhaps.
What do you think the holdup is?
I don't know. Just making sure because they have 2 things to figure out here. One is, what do we do the first 2 years? And then what do we do after that?
Right.
Because they have 14 teams for 2 years with Texas and Oklahoma in the league, and then so they have to figure out what is the rotation. There's no anticipation of divisions, as Brett Yormark said. We're not going to have divisions. So what does that mean in scheduling? Because while you don't have divisions in conference standings, you certainly have a strategy as to why these teams are playing these teams and what the rotation will be. And that's understood in other leagues is, okay, you play everyone from your division, then you play these guys this year, and is it home road and how? So yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm.
All right, let's move on to topic 2. BYU basketball dominated Westminster last night by 30, and let's be honest, if you watched the game, it wasn't even that close. Game up in Salt Lake City at Vivint Arena. BYU has done very, very well on the home court of the Utah Jazz. But what was the bigger news from last night? We already talked about the 19 threes for BYU setting a program record. Is it that? Or the fact that we got a little bit of an update on Spencer Johnson's injury? He thinks he's going to play Saturday, according to Coach Pope. And in fact, let's actually listen to that. This is Coach Pope talking about Spencer Johnson's injury.
You mentioned Spencer obviously missed his 2nd straight game. You had said probably out a couple of weeks. Is that what it's looking like?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, he's convinced he's going to be back on Saturday. So we'll see.
So what's the bigger story for you out of the game last night? Is it the program record 19 threes, or is it the update on Spencer Johnson and whether he'll be here with this team for the next couple of weeks?
Spencer Johnson feels like this could be a couple of weeks, and hopefully it's not an extended amount of weeks, right? Like a 4 to 6 would be tough. If it's like a 2 or 3, that's different. But if this bleeds into conference play, that's tough. Mark Pope has said Spencer Johnson's been our best player on offense and defense, and he called it a jolt to the system to not have him. The last 2 games, BYU has won without him. Certainly the Dayton win, very different than Westminster. The 19 threes against Westminster, awesome. 2 years ago, BYU made 18. That was tied for the program record from 2020. So, it's Spencer Johnson. This is a guy who became a starter, has scored 17 and 18 in 2 different games, which are career highs for him. And as Mark Pope mentioned, best player on both sides of the ball. You saw the impact against Butler, where he goes out and they make a comeback, but that was a game that BYU was probably not going to win. Then against Dayton, they get down by 23. They're still adjusting to, okay, no Spencer Johnson. Who's going to make a shot here? Then Gideon George and Jackson Robinson and Noah Waterman have warmed up there. It's a big deal to not have Spencer Johnson. Now, again, our standard for this team isn't they have to make the tourney. We are wait and see with this group, and hopefully they grow and get better and are interesting later and get some notable fun wins. So no Spencer Johnson's a big deal. Certainly that is the bigger deal coming out of last night. But I like what we've seen the last 2 games from that guard line without him. I think there's some nice depth as BYU's gone 10 deep every game. Last night they went to the 12th man, Traden Christensen, and 11th man, Tanner Toolson, for the first time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that the bigger news is the Spencer Johnson injury update. But I do want to quickly touch, before I talk on that, I want to touch on the 19 threes. There's one thing, look, 19 threes is impressive, and you can say, well, look, it's against Westminster. You still have to make them. whether they're giving you the shot or not, or you're creating and putting yourself in a position where you have an open look, you still have to make those threes. And to make 19 threes in a game is quite remarkable.
That's amazing.
Onto the Spencer Johnson thing, that's definitely the bigger news. And look, we've seen this. It doesn't matter the sport. Teams in any sport can, for a game or two, you can make adjustments where you don't necessarily see things too much.
Yeah.
The longer it goes, that's where you start to feel those things in terms of not having a player like Spencer Johnson. And I love what you said in referencing what Coach Pope mentioned in terms of his best player on both sides. It's not just what he brings you on offense. It's not just his ability to shoot.
Good guarder.
He's a good defender. Look, and his assists have been up this year as well. So he's a good facilitator. So not having him here for a couple of weeks, maybe not until conference play begins, that's worrisome, but I am encouraged with what we've seen. Noah Waterman coming in the starting lineup has been really, really good. And last night,
2-0.
Yes, they're 2-0 with him in the starting lineup. I will say this, whether it's realistic or not, I like the fact that Spencer Johnson is telling Coach Pope I can be ready by Saturday. Now, whether that actually has any validity at all and is probable or not, I love the fact that he feels he could probably go out there. That, at least, I would think gives everybody hope that maybe it's not too serious. But I think you go in sort of planning not to have him for the next couple of weeks. And the good news is, so last night, Saturday, and then the game in Vegas. Outside of that, BYU between now and the 29th, every game's in the state of Utah.
Yeah,
and most of them are home.
9 of the 13, 3 in the Bahamas. They only have 1 that isn't.
Yes.
Until conference play.
The only true road
South
game
Dakota,
outside.
UVU, you don't need Spencer Johnson, although UVU is a revenge game. Creighton is number 7 in the country, and that is December 10th, next Saturday.
Yeah. So between now and the 29th, BYU's playing 1 game outside of the state of Utah. Take advantage of that.
Hey, BYU called St. Mary's and said, "Oh, is that how you do it? Let's go." Although they didn't go to the Bahamas.
Well played.
That was a tough one. Let's hear from you and Voice of the Nation. Our question of the day is this. What matters the most to you in BYU's first Big 12 football schedule? Again, we reached out to the league. They said there's not a date per se of the release of the schedule. Maybe mid-December. We'll see. So we anticipate in the next couple of weeks. At Roberts_MN. Meaningful games in November. Yeah!
You're going to get those.
Welcome to the meaningful games in November era of BYU football. Caleb McKay getting big home games. I want to see OU and Texas in Provo before they leave for the SEC. That's my request with the first 2 years, is I would love to have Texas and Oklahoma in Provo once. Obviously not going to happen twice.
Right.
But I don't care if it's next year. I just want it the next 2 years sometime. That would be great.
All right, join us for BYU basketball with Mark Pope this week as Coach Pope recaps the Westminster game with Greg Wrubell and looks ahead to South Dakota on Saturday, also at Vivint Arena. You can watch that today, 8:30 Eastern Time on the BYU TV app.
And coming up, Hinckley Ropati has a touchdown in 2 of the last 3 games. He's in studio joining us next to talk about the Stanford game, the bowl game, Big 12 schedule, all of that. This is BYU Sportsnet.
Can I have that jacket?
By Bodyguards. Protection for a life worth living.
Football in Utah is all about the rivalries.
Red. Ooh, quarterback. Wide out. Rewards.
Wait, what?
My style, checking rewards. My style, right.
For Mountain America's My Style Checking, it's all about the benefits.
Loan discounts.
But it's hard to pick a favorite.
No, mobile phone protection. Telehealth. You're going to need that when we're done. I heard that. Let's go.
Get the account rivaled by no one. My Style Checking from Mountain America.
Let's kick off AFR on BYU TV.
What they did in that fourth quarter was not unexpected in my book.
Everyone did their job perfectly, and it resulted in, obviously, a touchdown.
Who knew that he had these kind of hands?
And right at the snap of the football, they both go right downhill. And that was the end of that. He knocked him down pretty quickly.
I bring the truffle right back. 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 All 10 winning.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. Jarom Jordan alongside Shep. It took a sec, but Hinckley Ropati has become this touchdown machine, 2 in the last 3. Especially from distance, 40+ is what he's been doing. We welcome him inside Studio B in BYU Sports Nation. Welcome to the show, man. I think have you been on the show before, but not in studio? First time, right?
Yeah, I've been in the studio for like a Halloween segment that we did for the haunted house.
That's right.
Yeah, I think, was it like 2 years ago or was it last year? But other than that, yeah, this is probably like my second time ever being.
Well, good to have you, man.
Appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah,
man.
Congratulations on getting engaged a couple weeks ago to
Thank you.
Talon.
For sure. That's probably been the biggest highlight of my past month now. So it's been exciting.
I was gonna say that or a couple touchdowns here, but you answered the question and probably correctly, right?
What was more stressful, the engagement, like preparing how you're gonna do it, or preparing for a big game?
The engagement, for sure. I think I've talked about this with her a lot of times, especially the week leading up to it. You know, super stressful. Just the fact that we wanted to surprise her, and she knew that, or she wanted her whole family to be there. So just coordinating that and making sure because she's a smart girl, so it's hard to get things past her. And so I like to think that I surprised her, but I wouldn't put it past her that she probably figured it out. But that was pretty stressful.
That's awesome. It was like worth 10 touchdowns probably, which is great.
Most definitely.
Okay, we're waiting on 2 things this week that are exciting. One is finding out the bowl that you're going to play in, and the Big 12 schedule.
That's right.
What are you more excited to find out this week?
The next thing, which is the bowl. I mean, I think that's the one thing that we're all focused right now. So they gave us a couple of days off just to get our bodies right, but today we get right back to work, and so we're just excited to figure out who we play, where we play, and just to have another week to work with the boys and just have fun,
Isn't that really what it boils down to? I mean, it does us no good, us in the media, because we always ask, who do you want to play? Who would you like? Nobody's ever going to answer that.
Nobody, like Georgia,
nobody wants to be bulletin board material that you wanted a certain team or you didn't want a certain team. But that's really what it boils down to. You guys get extra practices. Exactly. You guys have extra time to be together as a team. Yeah. And that stuff's invaluable, isn't it?
No, most definitely. I think that's the biggest thing that we look forward to, is just having another week, what's that called? Weeks of practice, just to be able to be together, enjoy time together. Because honestly, that's probably the best part about football, being with the boys. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to it for sure.
We're talking to junior running back Hinckley Ropati on BYU Sports Nation. What matters to you in a bowl game? Location, aka weather, the team you play, the swag, the bowl itself.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I feel like all of that's great, Obviously, the bowl gifts, we look forward to that, Early Christmas, who doesn't?
Do you re-gift?
What was that?
Do you re-gift?
Sometimes. But for the most part, I do like the gifts that I did.
Yeah, but you can't re-gift it to a teammate because they know that was a gift.
Know the bowl gift.
Giving it to a teammate? Come on, man.
That's true. No, but for the most part, I think that the biggest part or the best part about the bowl game is really just having another week. I mean, you go out there a week in advance, and we just kick it, you know what I mean? We have practice, things like that, but really you get to know your teammates even more. You get closer, and those bonds they last a lifetime. So we look forward to those.
Look, it goes without saying that the more involved you are, the more fun you're going to have. The fact that you've been able to see the field a lot more in the last couple of games, how much more fun are you having right now?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I do feel like that is true. You definitely feel like you're having more fun, but even before then, it's like I said, just being part of the program and being with the team and making those memories, that's always fun, And so obviously with an increased role now, due to injuries and things like that, it's just a matter of just stepping up and, helping your boys, obviously helping the team do whatever it is that we need to do to win. So, yeah.
How did you stay ready? Because we didn't see you a lot the first part of the season, but then certainly in the Boise State and Stanford games, you had a big role.
Yeah, I mean, the coaches had a huge part of making sure that, you know, we're staying mentally locked in, you know what I mean? And no matter what your role is, Coach Kalani always talks about maximizing your role and making sure that you love your role, but you do all you can to maximize it, you know what I mean? And try to do more. And so I feel like the biggest thing was just always being in the moment. I always felt like, yeah, even when things are not going your way or whatever it may be, you know, just enjoy the moment, you know, because it's not every day. I always think about there's plenty of kids that are out there, you know, who would love to be in our position and love to do what we're doing. And so just to be here it's a blessing in itself. So.
How would you describe this season? You talked about, you know, even when things aren't going well, you sort of had a great start. You had the lull in the middle. You end on a 3-game winning streak in the regular season. Take me through what this season has been like.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows, obviously, like you stated, you know, we started really well, had a little drought in the middle, and now we're trying to end on a good note. But obviously, it's not what we expected, you know, as a team and the rest of the boys. But at the same time, I feel like the biggest thing that we're just trying to just enjoy it, you know, and just live in the moment with each other. And I feel like this season obviously hasn't gone the way we would like it to. But like I told you guys before, like the biggest thing is just enjoying the time that we have together and knowing that these times are precious, you know, we're making memories. And so just going out there, and obviously winning is a lot better than losing. So we're just trying to do more of that, but yeah.
Okay, I want to throw something to you. I was not planning on doing this, but I'm going to take this opportunity.
Yeah.
I have I don't know if it's a nickname, but I want to get your take on something. You scored a touchdown, Stanford, okay? So on social media, I put out Hinckley Ropati D. Do you like that? Is that acceptable? Am I allowed to keep using that?
You guys can use whatever it is you want, but
I'm getting the sense you're not a big fan of it. And you can be honest. You can be honest. Ropati D? Huh?
I mean, Ropati, I love my last name, so I think Ropati's just fine, but I think what you guys got to give credit to is the O-line, man. You got to go to find
Look at this guy. He's so selfless.
Every answer is perfect. Hinckley, that's great. By the way, are you named after Gordon B. Hinckley, or is it somebody in your family?
Yes, sir.
You're named after Gordon B. Hinckley.
So my dad, yeah. So actually, my older brother, his name is Ezra. So, and then I'm Hinckley, and then my younger brother is Monson.
There you go.
Wow.
As you can see, yeah. So
Thomas says, how about that? Boom, boom, boom.
My dad named us after prophets.
That's
for obvious reasons, you know, people that he wants us to obviously emulate and be like, you know, and so.
Hey, I'm named after a prophet too, man.
Yeah.
15 whole verses.
Yes, sir.
15, smallest book in the Book of Mormon. I'll take it. I love that. That's cool, and everybody loves Gordon B. Hinckley.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's talk about Stanford in a sec, but I wanted to ask you about the Big 12 schedule. Certainly there are 4 teams you won't play. Are you hoping for a certain team at home or in the opener or in the rivalry week? Do you care?
No, I don't think I really care which team we play. But obviously there are teams that we already have history with. For example, like Baylor. And
Would you like to see Baylor on the schedule?
And I think Baylor is a fun team to play in. I think it's a great atmosphere to play in as well. And so I would love to be able to go against those guys. And I mean they're a great team, great program. And so, but other than that, yeah, I mean shoot. I don't think it really matters who we play. We're just excited to be part of a great conference and be able to compete at a high level with them. So.
But Texas and Oklahoma in the next
Texas
2 years,
Oklahoma,
got to get them at least
awesome.
once, right?
At least one time.
That'd be
for
fun.
Sure.
I'd love to have them in Provo.
No, for sure.
Do you go into the off season with changes coming and guys moving on with the program, especially at the running back position? Do you go in kind of the mindset I'm RB1 heading into the off season?
I think the mindset is still the same. Whatever it is, I just got to make sure I do whatever I can do to be prepared for whatever opportunities I get, you know what I mean? And so I think the mindset is still the same, is to come back stronger, faster, more explosive, to be able to make more plays for whenever my number gets called. So
what's the running back room been like this year? Take fans into there and what it's like to hang out as that group.
Oh man, it's awesome. I like to think that we have the most close-knit unit in the whole team. I mean, starting with guys like the seniors in our room, like Lopini and CV, Chris Brooks, and those guys are amazing. You know what I mean? Those guys are awesome dudes, and for them to lead our room, and it's been really big for us this season. You know, they've set the tone on the expectation and the way that we prepare and things like that. And so, and then it goes from those guys to guys like Miles and Mason Fakahua and all those guys in there, Enoch, Bo. I feel like everybody in that room are just dogs. Like everybody in there is they got their head on screwed on right. You know, they come in every single day preparing like they're going to be the guy that's going to play. And I think that's something that's really important for our room.
Have you seen that video of the high school kid before a season who's talking about his teammates? Where he goes, oh, Hinckley Ropati, dog.
Dog, yeah.
Miles Davis, dog.
The same exact thing.
Yeah,
everybody is dogs,
dog.
Man.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about Stanford. Was the game plan, hey, we're going to rush the ball a ton, or did it become that in the game? Because 358 is a crazy number.
No, most definitely. A-Rod already had that, you know, set in stone as a game plan going into the game. And so, I mean, as you saw, the O-line just dominated the trenches. And, I mean, you know, the rest of us just kind of did what we need to do. They opened up the gaps. And so, yeah, I mean, that was originally the plan going into the game, that we're just going to play our style of football, you know, hard-nosed football and physical football. And that's exactly what we did.
Kind of fun to do that to Stanford, who's kind of known for that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you do this well, just wait. Yeah, yeah. No, that was
no,
fun.
Most definitely. No, for sure.
What do you feel is the most important thing, whether it's for you personally, the team in general, as you guys now you wait for the bowl game, you have one more game, and then it really is the offseason. What do you feel is the most important thing for this team to do in the offseason to get ready for next year?
To be completely honest, like, I can't even think about the offseason just because we still got the bowl game, you know? And so
he's been ramping down from the engagement, let alone
yeah.
Those details, yeah.
I mean, coaches also talked about like having a 1-0 mentality, you know? And so every week is a new week. So we still have the bowl game to worry about. And I think that's our biggest thing, is prepping for the bowl game so that we can, you know, obviously go out there and put out a very dominating performance so that we can carry that momentum into the offseason, you know, prepare us mentally, physically for the next season. And so I think that's the biggest thing, just winning out the season, having fun doing so, and just carry that momentum into the offseason to obviously prepare for the next year. So.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. Let's give you some BYU Sports Nation karma. Some good luck for the offseason. Finals coming up in a couple of weeks, a bowl game and whatnot. So, Hinckley Ropati, thanks for being on the show, man.
I'm not going to use it anymore. You were very kind, but I saw you were not into it. So Ropati, I'm putting it to bed.
Thanks, Hinckley. I appreciate you guys for having me.
All right, BYU basketball is back to work on Saturday as they play South Dakota at Vivint Arena. Watch the game on BYU TV or the BYU TV app. Coverage begins 2:30 Eastern Time with BYU Sports Nation Game Day.
And coming up, a loaded whip. Saturday is going to be fun. And with Kai Nakua on the Jets, who plays first, Kai or Zach? This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork offers a large inventory of Ford vehicles, including a selection of cars and trucks, providing a range of transportation choices. From the Ford Fusion sedan and the Edge crossover SUV to a range of pickups including the F-150. Each product line comes with options to enhance performance, comfort, and safety. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
When BYU made such a difference in our lives, I think really helped mold us as to who we are. And so when we had that opportunity and came back to Boise and found out there was an active chapter, we thought, okay, that's something that I can really get behind and get involved in.
We want to promote the BYU experience all over the region. We want people who leave BYU to still stay connected.
Here's the thing about BYU Sports Nation. It's a banner that unites fans all over the world. BYU TV and BYU Radio are all about bringing your family events and games live. On air, online, and on the free apps. It's the next best thing to being there, connecting your fandom with others across BYU Sports Nation. Download the apps and get exclusive access to analysis and interviews with players and coaches. BYU TV and BYU Radio, the place for all things Cougar sports. Tune in, join in.
This is BYU Sports Nation. To interact with the show and get great content throughout the day, follow us on our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
He is Shep. I am Jarom. Let's whip it, y'all. Google Whip Around is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
All right, Kinakua back with the New York Jets.
Yeah.
With the practice squad. Will he play in a Jets game before Zach Wilson?
Gulp. Zach, it may be a minute. Mike White had a really nice game against the Bears
I'm a bit tired, though, of essentially calling him the next Tom Brady because he passed for over 300 yards.
I was going to say Joe Montana, but no.
They're a little overboard on he's the guy now.
Well, he is the guy now.
No, but what I mean, like,
he's not.
Like, let's forget about everything we saw out of the #2 overall pick. That Mike White, our 5th round pick, who's been here and we've seen him for a couple of seasons, he's now the. I'm not a Zach apologist, but the Mike White love nationally after that game was pretty nauseating.
That's about as defensive as the Jets have been on the field, which has been really defensive. Yeah, it might be Kai. Depends on their needs at that position, but Zach's not going to get a shot for a couple weeks here.
No,
perhaps
yes,
the rest
I agree
of the
with
year.
you.
I don't know. They have the second half.
I still think Zach gets in before Kai does because obviously, you know,
I'm not sure, dude.
I think
depends on injuries.
I think as the season goes on, he's going to get another shot. It's too much invested in him to not give him another shot.
It's production based. If Mike White produces, Zach ain't coming in. What Zach needs is for Mike White to stink. That's it. That's his shot.
He has played well in all the games he's gotten into. I was just
because Mike White is the next Steve Young. Said no one.
The over-the-top stuff about Mike White after that, I just thought
I think
a little too much.
Okay, the second pick thing with Zach doesn't matter now. It's just whether you're producing it.
It does when you realize how much you're giving him in money and signing bonus.
23 is guaranteed. It's over.
I know.
There's nothing you can do.
It goes against your cap, and you don't want dead money on your cap.
But you don't want dead production.
No, I agree.
That is
Look,
more.
And I'm not a Jets fan, so at the end of the day, I don't really care.
You sound like one.
But I just got so sick of all the Mike White. Like, it's just, oh, he's the answer. He's always been. No, he's not.
Because no one's thrown for 303 against the Bears ever. With last night's win against Westminster, BYU's now 4-0 under Mark Pope at Vivint Arena, the home of the Utah Jazz and Jason Shepard. Should BYU play all its games there now? Just done with the Marriott Center.
No.
Move to Vivint.
No, because I like the convenience of us being right next to the Marriott Center.
That is nice.
So for selfish reasons, I'm going to say stay here in Provo.
Getting defensive about Zach, selfish reasons. No, but I would love more big games. Unfortunately, BYU, they did what they had to do with Christmas Around the World, taking over the Marriott Center. You got Westminster and South Dakota. We've seen some awesome games up there. Arizona, Michigan State, Oklahoma State over the last 20 years.
It's fun. It's fun to have that type of environment.
Even Utah State, who's probably better than BYU this year at this point. That would have been a fun game. I'd love to see a fun game like that again up there.
Put up 19 against Utah State.
Yeah, Westminster, South Dakota not doing it for me.
19 threes. Mm-hmm. All right, BYU has now had more threes than turnovers in 2 straight games. How many games this season do you think BYU will make more threes than have turnovers?
Well, do we think that BYU is going to have like 10 turnover games somewhat consistently and make 10-plus threes? Because if that's the case, I can anticipate 3 to 5 more. But realistically, I'm going to say it's going to happen like twice.
You see, I figured 3 or 4. I think 3 or 4 is. And the good news is with the turnovers is we just mentioned, they're trending down, and that's good. Yeah. That's really, really good because the beginning of the year, through the first 2 games, they were averaging 22.
Yeah, it was bad. They've gone 20-plus 3 times. Yeah. Okay, how awesome is Saturday going to be with the USA Netherlands? Yeah, Christian Pulisic in the round of 16 and all the college football conference championship games besides the Pac-12 in front.
And BYU South Dakota.
That's assumed. That's a work thing.
Okay. It's going to be awesome. Look, the more high-profile, things that matter events in one day I'm going to take. So it's going to be awesome.
I am the happiest man in the land, a rhyme, half rhyme, about the United States playing early in the morning.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, not the South Dakota. Nope, we're good. We're good. It's not about us, but kind of.
But kind of is. Yeah. All right, after defeating Iran.
Thank you.
I had to think about it. I had to think about it.
Tyler Adams. Actually, it's pronounced eliminated.
Yeah. So, after beating Iran 1-0 to advance to the knockout stage, is the U.S. men's national team now playing with house money at the World Cup?
Do you still like Everton, by the way? You still in on the other Blues?
I got asked about that last night. I got asked.
Someone asked you about liking Everton?
It was Erin Bailey from women's soccer. She's like, "Do you have a Premier League team?" Like,
oh, she didn't know.
No. But I'm like, I've kind of gone with Everton, mostly because their color is blue.
We need to just say you have a like Burnley, dude.
Shout out to the BYU women's soccer who were there last night, and BYU baseball was there last night too.
Hey, there you go, all the way up to Salt Lake. Yes, they're playing with house money. You had to get out of the group. If you get past, the Netherlands in round 16, awesome. There is an opportunity here for the U.S. to make a little bit of a run like they did in 2002, get to the quarters.
At the end of the look, you could not lose that game yesterday.
No, that would have been
you could not have done that. So I think at this point now it's like gravy. House money, gravy, whatever you want to say.
Gravy is necessary to me depending on the dryness of the potatoes, but that's a whole nother subject, okay?
But yes, they're playing with house money in my opinion.
Last but not least, former BYU basketball player, current Idaho State basketball player, Colby Lee introduced a new free throw routine. He catches and then goes quick flow.
Wait, did he get? Look at this. A pass.
This is incredible. What do you think?
Look, it's all about the results.
Wow.
It's all about the results. It doesn't matter what it looks like. If it goes in, that's all that cares.
Which is awesome. That's new. So you're saying if they did granny style, it would be fun.
Look,
as long as it goes in. Rick Barry.
He's going to say Rick Barry, Hall of Famer, shot the granny shot and shot a high percentage. He's in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to say it's okay.
Okay, next church ball game for you. I need to see a granny shot from the free throw line.
Boy, I really got worked up about Mike White, didn't I?
Yeah, you got.
That surprised me.
I was like, are the cheerleaders going to come in and defense?
I did not realize that I had that much pent-up frustration on Mike White.
We all love our boy Zach.
Yeah.
We want Zach in there. Right.
Watch this week's AFR. They will not talk about Mike White or any other BYU TV sports content on demand. Just go to BYUSN.com or the BYU TV app.
Can you imagine if that happened with Taysom Hill? David Nixon's got to talk about it. It hasn't, though. And coming up on deck, the latest Deep Blue featuring BYU cornerbacks coach Jernaro Gilford on his impact on his players at BYU and his experience having been kicked out of school. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Introducing the truck for adventure. The all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier doesn't compromise on power or comfort. This midsize truck was redesigned to incorporate the latest technology and designs for safety, comfort, and convenience. Plus, with up to 6,700 pounds of towing capacity and best-in-class horsepower, it's rugged enough for adventure and still safe enough to transport all your favorite people. Where's your new Frontier? You'll find it at Tim Dowling Nissan Southtown and South Jordan.
If you're looking to build your brand awareness and increase market share as BYU moves into the Big 12, this is the place, BYU Athletics. We can provide the tools you need to make sure your company is seen and heard. BYU Athletics is where you can align your products and services with loyal fans that cheer for our Cougars. And they can also help your business win. Learn more about what a partnership with BYU Athletics and your company will look like. After all, this is the place. Email sponsorship at byu.edu today.
I was 4 years old when I left Zambia. My dad was born in Sheila, in the south of Italy.
My mom is from Slovakia. We haven't really talked about it, never, not once.
My dad doesn't really talk about his life in Serbia. I just really want to know who he is. And then discover who am I.
Welcome back to Mike White Sports Nation. Jason Shepard alongside.
So random. I have no idea why I was so worked up about Mike White.
Because we love Zach.
But that's not even. It's not even about that. It just rubbed me the wrong way how every ESPN
You're tired
show.
from a long night at Vivint Arena.
I guess.
Well, BYU cornerbacks coach Jernaro Gilford has overcome getting kicked out of school here, only to return not once but twice now as a coach as he continues to change young men's lives like his was in Provo as a player. Here is his Deep Blue.
Our team message is love and learning, but some people think it's like love, like soft love. No, I mean, it's like football. If you don't genuinely love the game, you won't be successful.
He's living his life and his career with the purpose of being a father and a football coach, and I think those things are just so closely related.
When all the players are around him, the way that they interact, the way that he's able to hold them accountable, but still keep things lighthearted. He really is a father figure to all these kids while they're away from home.
You're dependent on other people on that team in that locker room to do their job, to do what they're supposed to do, just like family.
It's gonna be like a tough love. It's not going to be, you know, I'm doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because I love you, and I want you to take this with you now, and I want you to have it for the rest of your life.
Those are things that made me what I am today.
Coach Lavelle came for the visit to talk to Jernaro and myself. The request for him to attend BYU. Of course, we did have questions because it was a Mormon school.
As I was going to sleep the night before signing day, you know, my mom was just like, well, you know where I want you to go. I've already thought about it, prayed on it. As soon as she told me that, I knew where I was going.
You should have seen that grin on his face because he could play football then with his little number on it and that, so.
March of 2000, I had asked our equipment guy for some shirts to send back home to a lot of my friends because they were like, man, you know, you made it, you're at BYU, send some shirts. I was told no. So honestly, me and my friend went back, we went in the locker room, took some shirts and gloves and everything like that. Ended up getting caught, getting in trouble. So I ended up getting kicked out of school for a year. So I had to go home, go to LA, go to a junior college.
Sometimes the best lessons are learned by experience. You know, you can only tell your kids, you can only tell your players so much. Sometimes they may have to learn on their own.
And my mom, you know, the woman that she is, you know, she's like, nah, first off, you went and you embarrassed the family. No, you ain't transferring nowhere. You're gonna take your butt back, make it right, and you're gonna get your degree and you're gonna finish there. I definitely tell all my players that I recruit my experiences, what I've been through, things that I did, and just tell them, like, your decision for 50 seconds can definitely ruin your life for 50 years. So just be smart.
When I met Jernaro, he was working at Big 5. I knew that he was really a big football guy. He talked about it, he watched it. But him being at Big 5, I kind of knew, like, this is not where he wants to be.
I had 2 or 3 meniscus knee surgeries here when I was at BYU, which kind of put me back a little bit. So I ended up going free agent to Seattle. I was there spring throughout the summer, and then a week before the first game, I got released. And my agent was like, man, just keep training and we'll just get you somewhere, you know? But honestly, at that point, man, my body wouldn't allow me to.
I know it hurted his heart. I know he cried. I didn't see him, but I know he did because that was his thing. I'm in the NFL. The family was so happy. Very first one.
That was my dream, my goals, my aspirations. That was the reason I came to BYU. It wasn't for a degree. Even though I had my degree, that was like the last thing on my mind. You know, I could have went and got jobs, but honestly, I was so frustrated. It was like everything I dreamed of growing up was gone at the drop of a dime. Honestly, I went through depression, honestly, probably, I want to say 2 or 3 years. I hit rock bottom. I mean, I didn't have nothing else.
And I probably told him, okay, well, you're going to have to get out and do something.
I started at the Big 5 corporate store in El Segundo.
He worked hard just the same as he would any other job. But Jernaro is very resilient, and he will go through the mud to get to where he needs to be. I knew that this wasn't the end of the road for him.
She was asking me what I wanted to do, you know. I'm like, football is really all I know. I mean, that's what makes me happy. That's what drives me. So, you know, she encouraged me to take a GA role at a Division III school, Whittier, and literally making $180 a month.
So being a GA, they pay for your schooling. So you don't have to pay anything. You just coach, and then they'll pay for your schooling. But he had to take out loans to actually keep us afloat. I was working, but, you know, living in California.
So Whittier proved to be very educational for him because he went back and received a master while he was coaching at Whittier.
It was a long blink, but in the blink of an eye, I found myself back at BYU walking in LaVelle Edwards Stadium. But at the end of the day, going from an athletic store, selling rifles and fishing equipment and shoes and unloading the trucks 4 and 5 in the morning, I found myself back at the place who gave me an opportunity to earn a college degree and a chance to take a step forward in life.
Even though he was an outstanding player here, he didn't come up through the business because of his name. He didn't come up through the business because he was a great player or played in the NFL. He went back home to LA, made a difference in young kids' lives.
The way that he grew up, it wasn't easy, but applying it to the way he can lead these boys, you know, it's impressive.
Life is short, man. You gotta have fun. If you don't have fun in life, then you're definitely just missing out because one day again, we won't be here, and Father Time is going to catch up to everybody, so enjoy it while we can.
Nobody has a bad thing to say about Jernaro Gilford, and he's an amazing example of a guy who has every reason not to like BYU, but loves BYU. Returned back here as a player after getting kicked out, as you mentioned, stealing some clothes. Came back as a coach, and he's been a fantastic hire for BYU in the secondary.
Well, and not only, if you're a player, not only do you want your coach to be somebody that can coach you to do what you're doing on the field, but you want somebody that you can relate to. And Jernaro is relatable to just about everybody, and I think that's why you don't hear anybody say anything bad about him. Everybody loves Jernaro because of who he is. It doesn't have to be anybody other than who he is, and people love him for it. He's great.
Yeah,
he's awesome. A great recruiter as well.
Absolutely. If you want to see more Deep Blues, go to BYUSN.com or the BYU TV app.
All right, BYU basketball back to work on Saturday, taking on South Dakota at Vivint Arena. Listen to the game on BYU Radio or the BYU Radio app. Coverage begins at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Cougar pregame live.
And a rise and shout out to winning. The Popes getting it done. This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
At BYU, we believe wholeheartedly in expanding joy, and that joy comes from learning and serving. Some of the best, most lasting learning happens when we serve, when we experience, when we connect in real, lasting ways. It's what we call inspiring learning. Learning that inspires us to create a better world, to do and be better. After all, light shared is the best kind of light.
Before I was a coach at BYU, or before I was even a player, I was a BYU fan.
We've got great energy as a team, but we have even better energy because of our fans, and it's absolutely magical.
When you hear the crowd roar, that makes it more exciting, more of an adrenaline rush.
The roar of the crowd, you can feel it on the floor, you can feel that energy, and it's unlike anywhere else in the country.
BYU Sports, it's all about the fans.
Let's kick off AFR on BYU TV.
What they did in that fourth quarter was not unexpected in my book.
Everyone did their job perfectly, and it resulted in, obviously, a touchdown.
Who knew that he had these kind of hands?
And right at the snap of the football, they both go right downhill. And that was the end of that. He knocked him down pretty quickly.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Nation is on demand. Download the free BYU TV and BYU radio apps, or listen to the podcast. While you're there, please subscribe, rate, and review.
Yeah, you can listen to Shep at 1.5 speed if you want, whatever. Our question of the day: what matters most to you in BYU's first Big 12 football schedule, with which, if you're just joining us, we've learned at the earliest could be in mid-December, according to the Big 12. So not as soon as tomorrow, like perhaps was discussed. Preston P. on Twitter. The home schedule is going to be an upgrade no matter what, but it would be nice to get either Oklahoma or Texas in Provo since they only have 2 years in the conference. Agreed. I think that's one of the main goals is, hey, it'd be great to have Texas and Oklahoma here before they leave.
I think you're probably getting one year, one the other. Now, whether or not both you get them at home remains to be seen. I think you're going to get at least one of them, and I would love it for it to be Texas.
Hey, we all do.
Yes.
That'd be great. Oklahoma, despite its struggles, still would be great.
Yeah, getting either one would be fantastic.
In response to that question, our elite voice of the day is this, presented by PAX Healthcare Elevated, at Alec_Pope on Twitter. Oh, Pope, you say. More on that coming up. Excited to play the Blue Bloods of the conference, TCU, Kansas State, and Cincy. Nice. It'll be good to have some cakewalks in there, too, against Texas and Oklahoma. Texas ain't no cakewalk, but I get the joke. Oklahoma this year has been bad.
Yeah, they have taken a turn for the worse.
Yes, they have.
Yes, they have.
Today's Rise and Shoutouts, just singular, presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. To the Popes, Mark wins his 150th game as a Division I coach, and his daughter Ella made a game-winning shot with 3.6 seconds left to beat Dayton. So it's the Popes taking down Dayton.
All the Popes do is just beat Dayton.
That's what they do.
It's what they do.
It's what they do. So congratulations to them. Mark, 4 years at UVU and now 3+ years, 4th year at BYU. 150. Let's go. Our thanks to today's guest, Hinckley Ropati.
Conversation continues 24/7 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. This and all of our shows on demand at BYUSN.com.
Apologies to Brother Dennis Pitta. We ran out of time. For Jason, I'm Jarom. Shout out to Jessica Chapman. Hey, okay, next thing on the docket, find out who the bowl opponent is. No later than Sunday. We'll see.
Mid-December for that one, too?
That's when the game will be, Shep. Go Cougs.